Commission rescheduled monthly meeting, November 12th, 2024, beginning at 7 p.m. Anthony, would you help me with roll call? Oh, or not Anthony.
Me?
Oh, there's something new.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah,
Please,
sorry.
please be more specific.
Oh, that's okay. Barb Lucenti,
Present.
Anthony Belina,
Present.
Kat Lotke, my apologies,
Present.
Robert Tantillo,
Present.
and Greg Skovich.
Present.
There is a quorum.
Will everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. When would be a good time to grill Anthony?
Didn't you just start?
Make him do roll.
You could do that now at your own leisure.
I think before we get into business, I'd like to know who the new guy is. New guy.
Do I need to speak into this?
I think you do. You gotta turn it on to get the green button.
What do you want to know? You just want to Anthony Bailina. I live on Big Bear Drive, 6449, white and brown house. I'm married. I have twin 10-year-old daughters. So by day, I'm mostly, I guess, by night, I guess I'm dad. By day, I'm a residential real estate appraiser. I cover multiple counties, kind of the collar counties of Cook and whatnot. I guess because of the residential appraiser experience and the fact that we moved into the neighborhood 4+ years ago, I just wanted to get more involved. And this is my start. So thank you very much for accepting me, and I look forward to getting to know all of you in greater detail in the near future. So,
Thank you, Anthony. I had the pleasure of visiting with Anthony for about an hour, and I think he'll be a valuable addition to the commission, bring a fresh perspective. He's been in the community for 4 years, so he's seen a little bit, and has a young family, so he's got the perspective of looking into the future of Indian Head Park. So I thought, we were truly lucky that Anthony raised his hand and asked to be a part of our commission.
thanks again.
Thank you. Next, let's dive right into approval of the October meeting minutes. Has everybody received a copy of the meeting minutes? Has everybody had time to review the October meeting minutes? Are there any questions, comments, corrections, improvements for Andres?
Nope.
Barbara?
I second it.
Do you want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Kat. All in favor of approving the October meeting minutes, say aye.
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 All opposed? October meeting minutes are approved. Now we're going to open up. We have to open, close, right? So now we have 2 public hearings on the agenda for tonight. We're going to open up the public hearing. We have 2 petitioners. The first petitioner, who does not appear to be in attendance. The petitioner's name is Khalid Alarmauti,
Correct.
and he is petitioning for a special use to operate an automobile mechanic shop in a space that has operated as an automobile mechanic shop for as long as I can remember, located 6692. We will listen to the staff's summary of the petition. Applicant is not here, so we will not have the good fortune of hearing from the petitioner. And then we'll open the hearing up to the public for any comment. We would like the public to keep the comments to 3 minutes time. And we will then make a motion. Then after the comments from the public, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond. We will then have an opportunity to question the petitioner who's not here as a commission. Then we'll close the public hearing. We will have a discussion and make a recommendation to the village board. So, everybody know what we're doing? Do I gavel this for opening a public hearing?
You can, but you also got to declare the time.
All right, we are opening the public hearing for petition 6692 Joliet Road at 7:07 PM on November 12th. Andres, would you care to give us a summary of the petition?
Yes. So as you stated before previously, the location is 6692 Joliet Road. That is on the Brookside Shopping Plaza. It is near 7-Eleven, and it was previously an Amco for the last 4 or so years. Prior to that, it was a Route 66 tire and lube. In doing the research on this, neither of the previous businesses that I could find had a special use. The only information I found was when Route 66 Tire and Lube went in there, they had to get a building permit, and it was categorized incorrectly, and so it was considered a permitted use versus a not permitted use. So that is why there's a special use coming in, as you said, Chairman, for a location that has always been an automotive mobile service store to some extent, and the key factor too is that the building is designed that way. When the building was built, it is not a renovation. Those were the original plans for it. It has the 8 bays. And like I said, in additional research we had, the plan stated that there was supposed to be a Bridgestone. I couldn't find any records of a Bridgestone existing in that location, besides a couple of residents who I mentioned to basically affirmed that they remembered that they thought there was a Bridgestone there, and I believe we had like a single bill from like 2001 that was there. So this facility has always been designed for this type of use. That it wasn't written that way in the when the shopping center was built. I could not find the reason why. The relevant code here, of course, is that special uses exist where they are for operations that might be desirable for the public welfare within a given district, but might have an adverse effect upon neighbor properties or upon the character and future development of the district in which they're located. And so that is the standard that must be met. And looking at it, and even going further, specifically in the B3 district, the automobile service stations for retail sale and dispensing of fuel, lubricant, tires, batteries, accessories, and supplies, including installation of minor services customarily incidental, and also for facilities for the gear and chassis lubrication and limited vehicle washing by hand. But then it goes not including trailer trucks, rental service, campers, or sale of vehicles new and used. So in staff's opinion, this falls under the permitted special uses that are as distinctly outlined in that district. The petitioner is basically, it's in the report, but the petitioner is looking to do basically a full-service mechanic shop. He is not looking to do any additional service. There's no body work being done on that. We didn't get any public comments in, we had basically one public comment that called in requesting for more information about it. And that was, the question was just asking about what type of service they provide, but also, concerns about noise and lubricants. Not that anything would be that they consider as improper, when I explained to them that their hours are going to be, and the other thing was for storing of the cars outside that they're working on, or working on the vehicles that are being, stored outside on that. And so, as part of that, looking into it, we were looking at the required parking. There is sufficient parking out there for the customers, not just for the customers that are going to be at the shop, but also the other customers that might be going to the 7-Eleven or to the other stores that are there. And additionally, we already state that in our code that you cannot do any sort of work or service outside of the building, so that will also be in the code. There isn't a specific work hours, but the petitioner's hours are 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., which are generally, those are generally the work hours that are except that the companies that are there already operate under. And so, in reviewing all of that information, staff recommends that the special use should be approved because it is a permitted special use. It is providing a public welfare by providing a general automotive service to the village, which is something we currently do not have inside of it. And it will not have an adverse effect upon the nearby properties or upon the character or future development of the location, as this was already planned and built this way for it. And then additionally, there is some additional notice in there as well, where you can see that the property owners who we sent information to, you can see the public notice signs that was posted, and also the affidavit of the publishing of the notice in a paper of general circulation, this being the Chicago Tribune. And then there's also his business license application in there. The last key information, I apologize, I skipped over. This would be the petitioner's second location. They currently have one in Franklin Park that they've been operating for about 10 years.
And the petitioner is a tenant, not the owner of the
Correct.
building.
Correct. The petitioner is a tenant of it. They will have signed a lease for that property.
And the owner is current on all of their obligations with the township, the village?
Yes, there's nothing outstanding currently at Brookside that has issues of it. There are generally minor issues, but they're usually taken care of quite quickly. And they're routine issues that come up. Sometimes the garbage gets a little too full. Sometimes, maybe they have a little bit of overgrowth just because of it on their landscaping. But when we reach out to them, they take care of it quite quickly.
So good property owner.
Yes, they are a good member of the community overall.
Any questions for staff before we open it up to the applicant's presentation? Seeing that the applicant is not here, we will open it up for public testimony. Anybody speaking will need to swear in. Again, in the essence of time, I'd like to encourage the public to limit your comment to 3 minutes. So we'd like to open it up right now for the public. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, no need for the applicant to respond. Any questions from the commission of the applicant that's not here? Or staff? Any discussion amongst, do I close the public hearing now?
Yes, if we're not taking any more testimony, then you'd close the public hearing.
All right, we're going to close the public hearing. Goes on now, stays between us. Any comments amongst the commissioners?
No, not for me.
Tony? Nothing?
Seems self-explanatory,
Mhm.
odd opinion.
Yeah. In a related topic, those signs along the road that flop in the wind, is there any way in our code that we could limit those or remove them altogether?
Are you speaking about the bladed signs that stick up that advertise those? We'd have to look at the sign code on that, and see what the sign ordinance says on it and what they're allowed as in the B3 district of it. And, you know, as they're already granted, going back and, you know, looking at, they would have they'd still be legally non-conforming. Granted, if they fall down, you know, then they can't be replaced. But that would be for, while that would be a discussion for the commission to have, it wouldn't be something that bears on this topic.
No, I just think we should note that as a discussion, whether we're rehabbing our current documentation, but I would be in favor of trying to understand why we would need to continue that.
That's something that I will note in in my notes, and we can bring up as a topic at later meetings.
Other than that, on this petition, no, I have no more comments.
Kat? Excellent. Well, seeing as there's no comments from the public or the commission, does anybody care to make a motion for a recommendation to the board on this petition? And so we're clear, we will be making a recommendation for the property with the address of 6692 Joliet Road to be granted a special use to operate an automobile mechanic shop. So I'll be entertaining a motion to approve a special use to the petitioner. Does anybody want a motion?
Motion to approve.
Does anybody care to second?
I'll second.
Do we need to do roll call?
We could, I don't think we need to do a roll call, unless you'd want to. Otherwise, we could just, if it's gonna be unanimous. What I would say is do a voice vote. If there's any nays that come out of it, then to do a roll call to see
Okay.
which ones are nays.
All right, we have a motion with a second. Motion by Mr. Tantillo, second by Kat. All in favor of approving special use to operate as an automobile mechanic shop at 6692 Joliet Road, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Now we'd like to open our second public hearing at 7:19 PM, November 12th, for property located at 11209 Arrowhead Trail. We are hearing a request from the property owner for a variation from their rear yard requirements to replace and enlarge a deck and balcony. We do have the petitioner in attendance, or representative from the property owner. So we will be hearing from the property owner. However, you will be speaking or fielding questions.
Yeah, I don't,
Great,
everything's in there that you guys need to see.
excellent.
If you have questions, I can answer them.
As a preemptive measure, I'm going to ask that you raise your right hand. Do you swear?
Can you come up? My apologies. Can you come up to the mic, just because we'll get it all on tape?
Do you swear to or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Now we will hear the village staff report, and then to the extent the applicant has a presentation, what it doesn't sound like he does, then we'll open up to public testimony.
Thank you. So this property, the Zaliski property, is located on 11209 Arrowhead Trail, and they are requesting a variance actually from the rear and, my apologies to staff, is actually also a side yard requirement as well. It is essentially, because they're going to looking to put a 4-foot sidewalk as part of it. And I apologize for that on that one. So essentially, so to kind of outline how, what are they looking for, what expressed relief they are looking for, the way the village's code is written is there's a certain amount of required yard. And nothing can be in that yard that's not something that's an approved, excuse me, that's an approved use, which is generally nothing. And so what they're looking for is essentially a variation to have less than the required yard, both forward and, or excuse me, both rear and the side yards. Because if they didn't have less than the required yard, they wouldn't be able to build a deck or any of that type of sort in there. Arrowhead Trail is a unique property, or is a unique location, because when this was annexed in, it was annexed as R1, Residential 1, and it is the least dense. However, it does not meet the size requirements. They are generally about half to 2/3 the size of R1. And so that has issues, as I did the math once, that if the petitioner the petitioner was required to meet the rear yard requirements, their rear yard would go about 5 feet into the back of their house. So the way this is constructed, that any sort of use in the back will require a variation. What they previously had was a legally non-conforming deck in the back when it was annexed in. Legally non-conforming is sometimes referred to as grandfathered, but essentially it was already there. They got annexed in, they can keep it. Unfortunately, the tornado of 2023 had other ideas about said deck and destroyed it, as well as damaging their balcony. This was not unique to their property. But there was also one at 11202, which back in February of this year, the Plan Commission approved for replacing that deck as well. So that is the relief that they're looking for. Now, when looking at a variation versus a special use, like the variation has a much higher standard to meet legally speaking, is that we have to meet a certain number of findings of fact, and the petitioners very helpfully provided those findings of fact and why that they meet those requirements of them. Excuse me real quick. Here we go. And so, it's not a commercial property, so the first finding of fact, which is they cannot yield a reasonable return, does not apply to it. The second finding of fact is the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. This is the July of 2023 tornado was essentially an act of God. It's a very unique circumstance. The third one is the variation, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. There is many decks, and as in the report shows, there are many decks, and there are many balconies, and even sidewalks that protrude all over the street. So that is also would be something that it looks like they would meet that. As we said that that there would be a particular hardship on it because of the strict regulation of the physical surroundings and shape and topography of it. With that, like I said, the nature of the property is that it does not meet the current standards it was annexed in under. The conditions upon the petition for the variation would not be applicably general to other property within the same zoning classifications. As we've spoken about before, while there is while Arrowhead Trail generally would meet these, most of the R1 in the village would not meet these because they would be zoned in. For instance, Hiawatha has very long lots. They meet the R1. However, like I said, these are half to 2/3 distance on that, so they wouldn't meet that. Number 6 is the purpose of the variation is not based exclusively on a desire to make money out of the property. There's nothing in this, there's no dramatic return on this. The alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any present having interest in the property. Once again, this hardship was created by a tornado. The granting of the variation will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the other property improvements in the neighborhood. It actually meets the character of the neighborhood very well, and so it will not be detrimental to them or the neighbors of it. And then the proposed variation will not impair the adequate supply of light and air to the adjacent property or increase the danger of fire or otherwise endanger public safety or substantially diminish property values. And as we stated before, not only are the rest of the properties similar to this, the side yard, which would be the only concern about fire, is a side yard. The side yard relief is for a sidewalk, which would not actually concrete sidewalk's not going to catch on fire. So, in looking at these the findings of fact, and looking at the historical area as well as the previous actions taken by the board and the plan commission, staff is going to recommend approving of it because it fits the area. As a side tangent, as I kind of started off with, is that the Arrowhead Trail is a very unique section of the village, and it is something that the plan commission will eventually have to look at to see if possibly there is some sort of zoning, a better zoning classification that can be created to help the residents there. But as I spoke about kind of earlier as well, that's something for later down the road. But let me double check to make sure I met everything. Let's say I covered everything on it. I think I did. Yep. So, and lastly on it, as I said, the petitioner provided the findings of fact. I did provide a picture of what the home looks like from the rear. That was from Redfin. I don't know when that picture was taken, but it is, it was kind of gives a good rear visual look of it. What it was. They also have included the construction plans, their proposed construction plans. That would be in general speaking, because they still have to go and get them reviewed by our plan consultant. So there might be some minor tweaks that go on there, but it would be generally in this shape and form. So it would not have to come back to the plan commission if, for say, they have to change the width of support beams or something like that. And then also we put in, once again, just as we did the previous one, I put in the picture showing that the public notice sign was out there, the affidavit of publishing, and also the list of property owners within 250 feet who received the notification. So, like I said, sum it all up, staff is recommending that the plan commission recommend the approval for these variations to the board.
And to confirm, the improvements are not installed?
No, the improvements are not installed.
No presentation from the applicant, correct? How long have you lived there?
7 years?
Well, I commend you on a comprehensive application. Both of you, for that matter. Really makes our job a lot easier.
That's my wife.
Well, I commend her.
I'll tell her.
I'll let her, you're on record, so. So, no formal presentation from the applicant. Open it up for any public comment. It appears as though nobody from the public is going to have any comment in favor or against. Hence, no need for a response from the applicant. Does the commission have any questions for the applicant on their petition?
The balcony with the sliding glass doors, you're going to incorporate that in? And then,
Can you come up to the microphone? We actually have to. Thank you.
so you'll include the balcony in the deck plan?
Yes.
And did you figure out what's holding up the balcony currently? Is it?
Wood, yeah.
It's
There's
not
wood poles holding it up to
the
'em.
poles, yeah, the 4x4s or
They're
whatever.
not, they're compromised. I wouldn't go out there.
Okay.
Yeah. We
Is
had
there
a-
anything stabilizing those balcony poles
They're
today?
kind of
Like,
just in cement.
is it a cement
Yeah,
puck? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's gonna be completely removed. We had a silver maple fall on our
Yeah.
entire house.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then what's the material you're using? Is it the,
Composite
Yeah.
for the decking, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Is your infrastructure going to be like womanized wood, or is it going to be composite all the way through?
There will be some wood, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the good things to do is, now that he's in rehab, is that cement puck for our village person, to understand that when you have those type of posts, there's usually some type of steel rod in the middle of that, and then the 4x4 fits on top of that to kind of prevent the wobbling. So maybe a note to them that we would be looking for something like that in his capacity to ensure that it's safe.
Yeah, so as part of it, as part of the full permit process, there'll be part of a demolition, of course, and the entirety of the plans that, because they did give us architectural plans, but we didn't ask for the full,
Yeah.
you know,
Just-
will be reviewed by Don Morse. Yep, I'll make a note about that for them to look for.
Any other questions for the petitioner?
No. Not here.
I kind of do, sorry. In regards to the sidewalk, is there, maybe maybe it's in here and I don't see it. Is there gonna be like a relief away from the house, or is the sidewalk that goes around the house, does it just butt up against, right up against the house? Do you know what I'm saying? What's the plan there?
So there should be some space between the sidewalk and the house. We do have a little side yard with grass there, so we're not gonna be going onto the grass, just a small little sidewalk. Currently, we have rubber bar mats down as
Okay.
the sidewalk, so it's like a rubber bar mat walkway to the back. And that
Okay.
was in when we moved in, those
Okay.
rubber bar mats, yeah. But I don't believe that they will be pouring concrete to the house. It's gonna be, I don't know how much space, 6 inches, 12 inches of space between that sidewalk and it's a garage that the sidewalk will be on.
Yeah, they did provide the plans on it. It does look like it'll have that, and generally speaking, that where it is, so.
Okay.
Anything else, Tony?
No.
Kat?
Thanks. Thank you.
So legally non-conforming.
Yes, it was legally non-conforming. The deck was on that, so was the balcony. The sidewalk is, as he says, not there currently. So if you're going to do the entire variation process, you might as well do it. And like I
So,
said,
so we're clear, it was conforming until we went and annexed them and applied our building codes to their property.
yes. What I couldn't find this information, but what generally happens is that they will go and a developer will build when it's unincorporated and then incorporate there shortly thereafter. And as all annexations do, unless they, at the time of annexation, they ask for a rezoning, they all are come in as the least dense. And this is not a new annexation. This has been annexed for, I think they saw it in 1978. So this has been a continual state.
Again, all the more reason to take a comprehensive look at our zoning code.
Correct.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any discussion amongst this illustrious group of commissioners?
No.
Nope.
No.
Got it. I should have closed the public hearing.
You can close it now. It's
All right,
fine.
the public hearing's closed. With that being said, I would be willing to entertain some form of motion from somebody regarding the request for a variation from the property at 11209 Arrowhead Trail. And that variation would be from a rear and side yard setback to enlarge, to replace a deck and balcony that were previously damaged by a tornado that hit Indian Head Park in July of 2023.
So I do want to make one clarification. It's not actually a setback requirement because we don't have setbacks.
Oh,
That was what confused me at the beginning when I started looking this well, because I'm used to them having setbacks, and the village ordinance doesn't use setbacks, it's use required yards where you can't build anything in the required yard.
okay. Thank you for correcting me. So then, I am entertaining a motion for the property at 11209 Arrowhead Trail for a variation from the rear and side yard requirement. Looking for a motion.
I'll motion.
Attaboy, Tony. Can I get a second? Nice job, Barbara. Let the record show that on Tony's first day as a plan commissioner, he stood up and made a motion for the approval. Barbara quickly seconded, seeing the leadership that Tony displayed. And now I'd like to entertain a vote from the commission. All in favor of approving this variation? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion to recommend approval to the board carries.
Thank you, party people.
Tell her we got sideways with you, okay?
I'm gonna tell her we got not approved.
I mean, real sideways. All right.
Both of those are also going to be on the board meeting Thursday. So thank you for not making me do it overnight on Wednesday.
Let me know if you need anybody from the Plan Commission to speak on what you heard tonight in support. Okay, all right. And thanks for keeping your comments under 3 minutes, guys. Board report?
There is no board report for this meeting.
Okay.
I'll have one for you next meeting.
Excellent. Building report, I saw we've got a handful of, albeit a smaller list, but some permits that you guys are working on.
Yep, so it's that time of year where you're starting to slow down, but at the same time, a lot of small projects that came in. I apparently have lost mine. I believe it was 9. So basically everything that came in, almost all of it is we call over the counters. Windows, doors, AC units, things that come in and go pretty, basically we issue them when they come in. And so everything that came in, we issued this month.
What's an SFR edition?
Single family residential.
There you go. Thank you.
That one's on Hiawatha, yeah.
The electrical meter replacement?
Yeah, so Indian Ridge Lakes condos. I'm really hoping that was the right one. Last year they just have some old their meter banks on the condo buildings are old. So last year they replaced one, and this year the contractor came back and is replacing the next 5.
Okay.
So
So it's not a single, it's multiple.
yeah, that's for 5 of the buildings. It's 6810, 6812, 6814, 6818, and 6820 off the top of my head.
Excellent. Any new business you'd like to cover tonight? We talked about the addition of our new commissioner. Anything else?
No new business.
All right. Let's dive into our favorite subject, old business, comprehensive planning and planning consultant discussion. Anything?
So, when we discussed it last time, I was gonna get an RFP for you to go out and find a planning consultant for the comprehensive plan. Upon further discussions and, also, speaking with the board and staff and Gavin particularly, and also other things that are moving on at the village, we were thinking that instead of getting a planning consultant for a single, going out and getting a comprehensive plan, is we actually go out and get a planning firm to basically act as, well, a planner for us. I had worked with a company, Tesca Associates, when I was in Kendall County, that basically did the same thing. They have, and it's very similar to how we have engineering here. We have an engineer, they have a certain amount of retainer, and then as new projects or tasks that comes on that need to be looked at, we basically give them additional tasks and they pay it on top of that. We felt that this might be a better avenue, this would be a better avenue to go because A, it would provide me support, not to be selfish, but it would be very helpful myself because, in doing these types of research, but also that they would also bring some continuity to the planning position here. I don't know when the last time this village had an AICP, a planner that was a professional planner, on staff, on hire, on basically anything. And while the village doesn't have large planning needs, at the same time, I believe it would be very helpful to not only have someone who has a great deal of experience and learning and training on it, including certification, that they would also have continuity for in the future when I leave and when Gavin leaves and when turnover happens. The village has found this to be very helpful with their engineer, Strand, the company, because they've been using Strand for a decade plus. And it's been very helpful for when the entirety of the village staff basically turned over in the last year, outside of half of police. Otherwise, there was a lot of projects that we didn't know or we couldn't find, and that Strand said, "Oh, we had these." So that is something else. We think it would be useful to do it that way to add resiliency to the village. Like I said, add more expertise. I say I'm not a planner, but I can play one on TV. But I think it'd be helpful for the village, and that way also, when we're making these types of decisions, that the village can be very confident in that. If, for instance, let's say you turn down a recommendation and someone sues you, that you have a firm who does this for their living, that they then could do it as well.
Andres, are we confusing tasks here?
No, I'm gonna get there. Give me a minute.
Okay.
And so that's why I understand. You're like, so what are we talking about here? Well, part of it would be kind of combining all those tasks. As one part of it, besides just having normal routine work they could do, they would also be looking at doing the comprehensive plan, doing the zoning review as well. So if let's say we have a boring 6 months that the plan commission gets no special uses, it gets no variances. What this consultant would also be doing would be doing that comprehensive plan work for us, doing the zoning work for us, and then we could bring that to the plan commission where the plan commission, you all can make those decisions and on it as well. So not only would it provide support for the planning aspect of it for staff, it would also provide more time to give you more quality. That's actually a bad way of saying it, but your time is very worthwhile, and I think that if we went this direction, that you could make the higher level decisions, which you're all very capable of, instead of having you muddle through updating a comprehensive plan by yourself.
So how would you envision the terms of the contract?
The terms of the contract would basically be set out. These are the duties that we are going to. You provide us these kind of service. It'd be a request for qualifications versus a request for proposal. We'd get basically their hourly rates and however many if they have like a senior planner, an associate, we get all that information, but also we'd set it out saying, you're providing these types of services, including, regular planning services, any type of development services too, that if something comes through, if we have a big project come through that needs to have planning looking at it, but also task orders, including comprehensive plan review, zoning code review, and also presentations to the plan commission, as well as any other types of public meetings as well. So essentially, you'd be looking at almost having it look like it would be an outside consultant providing some planning services, as well as being able to tackle the big tasks that the plan commission wants to get their teeth into.
And they would bill hourly, or those two comprehensive plans and zoning code, could we lock them into? Because if I'm billing, if I'm able to bill hourly, I might look at it for 35 minutes and bill you for an hour.
Those we would envision as a task order modification, that basically they would give us, here's how much it's gonna cost you to do this project on it. This is how we do it for our engineering firms as well. So they have so one of our engineering firms, Thomas, for instance, they do general road programming work for us, looking at the streets, doing all the work on the streets, and then every so often if something comes up, say Wolf Road, we need them to look at extra more, we basically say, we need you to look at these tasks for whatever Cook County's putting out for Wolf Road, and they say, okay, it's gonna cost you this much, and then it comes to the board approves it, and it moves on. So that's kind of an extra task. But we let them know up front that there are these big outstanding tasks to do, not just the smaller work as well.
So this is a new and ongoing expense, correct? That's not in our budget today.
Correct. It would not, it's not currently in the budget as that form. There is in the budget $50,000 for a planning consultant for comprehensive planning, for the comprehensive plan overview. So depending on how that would look, we could transform that into being a planning consultant in general.
So it'd be a line item that we would budget continually.
Yeah, the same thing with anything else. The board would have to renew the contract on certain terms, et cetera, but it would be something that would be budgeted for continually. There is some, as I said, there is some flexibility involved as well, because when you're doing those task orders, if for some reason the budget maybe gets a little tighter, it's easier to manage that than rather than, say, if we gave $30,000 to a consultant to do a comp plan, that $30,000 is then out the door.
And this is work that's currently being done by ourselves internally.
Yeah, either being done or not being done. Yeah, I have not done a zoning code review besides whenever I find something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I write it down in a note. Or errors or other types of things, The planning work, as you can see, putting these special uses together and this research, I have been doing that. But there's also a lot of extra, we aren't also doing, for instance, zoning map updates. This company would also be able to do zoning map updates for us as well using the GIS, which is something we currently don't have the time or capability to do staff-wise.
So the tasks, you would have an hourly on-call type of scope, but then we would also define certain tasks, being the comp plan and the zoning review. Is that correct?
Correct. That's kind of
So those would be, we would have a scope with which multiple vendors would be able to compete and present not only their hourly rates for the on-call, but also there would be a scope tied to the two separate tasks that we're talking about, and they would be able to provide a competitive number for the scope that we articulate to them.
If we did it, we'd be doing it the same kind of very similar, but slightly different on it. As our entirety of our scope, it would be the tasks, but it would also be, the projects would also be in there, and we'd be asking for their qualifications. And so essentially, we would not be saying, provide us a number for comp plan, provide us a number
So we
for
won't know what the
yeah.
comp plan will cost us?
zoning. Well, that would be something that when we put out there, we put our a request for qualifications, the Planning and Zoning Commission will be able to review the companies to see which one has the best, who would have the best, qualifications you think would be best for the village on it. At that
And
point,
they're the guy.
and then the person, and that point, then the village can then look at it and see, okay, well, how much it's gonna cost? Well, what if we spread it over 1 year, 2 years? What can we do to adjust the price to get into? At that point, it becomes more of a negotiation for the overall project cost.
And has the board approved this method? Because we were looking at a sweat equity option for us to do the work.
Yeah,
And-
we kind of abandoned that.
We abandoned that. Okay.
But I'm not sure that the board is what he's describing something that's new to you or something you guys have heard at the board level?
I mean, we've talked about various kind of iterations of something like that, but nothing to the extent where we've all agreed on it. It's always been a discussion topic. So there haven't been any official decisions made. I think, and.
Well, that's true. We defer to Gavin and Andre's experience and, again, with continuity being forefront, and also, again, Bob, to your point, the sweat equity part, feel like, again, a lot of brains in the room, et cetera. It's almost, and Andres has a full-time job as well, as does Gavin, as do a lot of staff. This kind of gives us an outside person that can kind of keep us on task, keep us moving in a direction, and provide a context as to sequence, to your point, we'll know that a couple of the issues, but, for example, this came up, this was a permitted, what do we call it?
A permitted special use.
Permitted special use, i.e. a grandfather. So as those things come up, if we have somebody on staff, when this commission has turned over, the board has turned over, or Andres is, village administrator, Burr Ridge or somewhere, provides the village with continuity to kind of have that in place, rather than us coming to the meeting, hey, what should we do? We have somebody that can tell us, okay, this is what we should be doing. This is the next step here, what the next 3 to 6 months look like. Oh, this came up, let's make a note of this when we do the, the zoning or the building code or the comprehensive plan. There's gonna be a huge issue coming up, depending on what happens with Wolf Road. There's been some new things on that with variances and fences, and are they permitted?
Fen- Fences are only permitted when adjoining either their
Are they permitted, permitted grandfathered? There's some that are grandfathered currently, but
Yes.
depending on what happens with Wolf Road, this commission's gonna get pretty active, I think, over the next couple of years. So, having that continuity and that structure in place from somebody that does this for a living, not just, once a month on a Tuesday night, probably makes sense to.
Couldn't agree with you more. I definitely
Bob,
think,
to your point, there will be sweat equity, but it'll be directed and targeted sweat equity, not just, let's just throw a bunch of work at it with no roadmap as to where we should be going, I think.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that on-call supplemental through the lens of a professional that can do it a hell of a lot more efficient than we. But my thing is, we've had these 2 tasks for 6 months that we've been talking about, and I don't want to fall in love with somebody not knowing what that's going to cost me when we know these are 2 tasks that we've been tasked, forgive the overuse of the word task, we've been tasked with updating. And for us, I appreciate the hourly for the on-call, but I gotta believe that we gotta know what these are gonna cost us, these two tasks. And if we go and fall in love with somebody with beautiful hourly rates, and then we sign them up for a year, there's just nothing that's, I'm just fearful that it's gonna, not knowing what the cost is going to be, that they could run up something and the village could be surprised with the fee and the corresponding outcome. So what what I'd still like to do is define the scope tied to those tasks and, you know, have the qualifications, obviously. But also, hey, put your money where your mouth is. Let us know what you think the value of these tasks are. And hold their feet to the fire on those line items.
Right, I guess, Andres, you could speak to this, like within the RFP crafting, you know, an à la carte type of
We could,
request, and also a ongoing consultative.
yeah,
Two RFPs, is that the same one?
well, yeah, because one would be an RFQ, request for qualifications. For their proposal, we'll be asking essentially is, instead of using a task, I use the word project. You know, as a comp plan project, zoning code update project versus, you know, ongoing tasks of it. What we could do is we could look at an RFP where we would ask for, part of the RFP would be the costs for the hourly rates and the people. And then also looking at seeing how much and who they're gonna dedicate to it. Because as one of the it's not brought up here, but it wasn't brought up in discussions, is that we don't want the village to have a one person who's a planner, right?
Love continuity.
Yeah, they
That's
want
great.
to have multiple people, because if they want to they always want to have, you don't always need a associate partner to be working on something. Sometimes you need to have, you know, sometimes it's okay with planners, and sometimes you can also, you know, have somebody else. So we can look at that, but at the same time, we could also have them present costs for the comprehensive plan, the zoning code update as well, as part of their proposals. That would be more of a very straight RFP for both planning consultant services and for comprehensive plan update. And we could structure it almost like we've structured, recently the Heritage Center bid, but where you basically say, here's what the main cost for services are, here's what the, accessory costs, here's what the planning cost for a comp plan, here's what would be for a building view, and we wouldn't necessarily have to take those as well.
Well, I'd feel a heck of a lot more comfortable if we knew going in the value of these two projects that we've been challenged with, as opposed to having them work on it when we're slow and then running up some hours that, only for them to come, hey, look at what we did. And that's not the direction we were thinking. We want you to go this way, and we'll throw that out the window, but you still owe me for 10 hours of work.
Yeah, the way it would be more envisioned is whoever we selected, that would be something that way we'd have that, they would know that that's part of the discussion going in. And so they would be almost running on two parallel tracks of, here's the comp plan on it, and here's what the pricing we're gonna be looking at on it. And then here's the track for the general on-call services of it. So it doesn't matter if they're doing on-call services as part of the capacity. You can have two people working, or you can have a junior associate working on doing a special use, for instance. But then again, their senior associate would be still working on the comp plan, or they'll have a project manager that'd be working on it. So they'd almost be running in parallel with
Great.
each other.
Great.
So-
As long as we know going in what those two projects are gonna cost. Assuming we do our job. I mean, it's two-way street. They're gonna do the comp plan, but they're gonna look to us to provide them with guidance and certain timing for approvals and next steps and all that. But I think I'd feel a heck of a lot more comfortable if I knew going in what we need to ask them for money for.
And many consulting contracts also offer a fixed fee.
Mm-hmm.
So I would explore both options.
Okay.
And what you're describing in terms of a blended rate with different individuals, they also have to have a continuity issue as well. So they have to build an infrastructure on the team to allow for promotions or people leaving, people entering, and that succession management style should prevail when they develop the contract itself, whether it be fixed fee or time and materials. But there has to be an end game, so they have to be held accountable with milestones and meeting those. So there's checkbacks with us to see if they're on target with our expectations, and not wait to the end, to Greg's point, and say, you're way off. So that would be our expectation as the commissioners here, that we get frequent reviews of where they're at whatever percent to complete they are, and are they hitting the milestones the way we expect them to, or the way they profess that they could. And that way we could manage this. And then as far as a line item, I mean, you say we have 50,000, but if that's gonna be an ongoing cost, and we have to, assume that it is going to be an ongoing, then we'd have to budget for it as a village. So I would encourage us to do that as well.
When is the fiscal year? April 1st?
So we go May 1st to,
And you guys are in budget discussions now?
we're gonna start, actually, finance committee tomorrow is gonna kick that off. But, yeah, it's gonna be the next couple months. Usually then there's a first reading, early February, and then the board would approve it by March.
So depending upon what we want to accomplish in '25, you need a number.
I mean, the 50 is, again, we haven't used any of it.
If we don't use it in '24, is it gone? Yeah, yeah.
Mostly not gone, but,
Technically, yes, but, you know,
You gotta put it back in.
so we're about halfway through. Early November, we go through.
Okay.
We're halfway through.
one budget trick is to always, you can always incur the fee, incur
In
the
that
costs
year.
on April 30th, as long, then even if the work doesn't start to the next one, then it counts as the fiscal year, because you've already, encumbered that cost, yeah,
Yeah.
so, that's something that's just kind of
Right.
one way of doing it.
And you referenced a vendor? That
Oh.
was just an example, or?
Yeah, that was just an example of it, I mean,
You're gonna go
te-
into a couple, three, right?
yes, so,
I would encourage us to have a preferred vendor list that has been vetted out, that everyone is comfortable with, so then you could à la carte your way through whatever project is up for review, and if the bid is won, then we could decide which preferred vendor is best suited for the job, rather than always trying to vet out a particular vendor for, a project. So a preferred vendor list is something I would encourage us to look into.
yeah, that was kind of why we were looking at going with almost like an RFQ versus an RFP at the beginning, because then we'd go in, we'd find our vendors that we'd rank them, and then we'd use them for that kind of ongoing, any projects or tasks we'd have for them, rather than looking at trying to go out to do bidding every single time we'd have a project. But, yeah, and to your point, the vendor that I referred to, Tesca Associates, they're a very well-known planning firm, but they were just the one I had experience with when I was working in Kendall County, because they had, and they actually still are, their consultant services for planning for the county, and they've been there for 15, I think it's 18 years plus now. So they're very well experienced on that, and they're also not just a small company; they're very well known in the suburbs.
And then the other thing I think we'd all like to have is a timeline. I mean, amongst us, we have to build up the expectations of when we want this done. I mean, our first discussions this year were, I think, in March, and we were talked about what we're talking about now. So I'd like to see our expectations united in a communication to these vendors and say, we expect that this to be done within 6 months, 3 months, year. And that way we could be very transparent to whoever needs to look at this as we're rewriting our documentation, and we expect it to be done by X date, rather than this ongoing process of discussion.
Yeah, so the current, we wanted to bring it to the Plan Commission first to get the kind of the sign off on it, because we didn't just want to, swerve and not present it before you. The timeline currently is to hopefully have an RFQ released within the next month at the latest, possibly before the end of November, and then looking towards having, vetting them and getting them on board and by February at the absolute latest, by February 1st, the absolute latest, possibly before, because we have at least one person pushing for a very aggressive timeline, so.
And in these vendors' discovery, they have to be very forthcoming and understand our current situation, and then they have to present back to us their expectation and when they're going to complete this work. That also is meaningful in terms of the preferred vendor that we select for any given project. It's not just the quality of the work, it's the timing and the cost all blended together to figure that out. So I would hope that in their discovery, holding them accountable, especially if it's a fixed fee, that they understand that, you know, that's what we hope that they will do during this period of time, with milestone checkups and presentations back to us and where they're at, and some type of project plan on percent to complete. And if we fall down because we're being held accountable for certain tasks and we don't complete those, then there's an understanding that we're causing the delay and not them. So that's what I would build up in this communication.
Yeah, that's definitely, you know, we would definitely be looking for a vendor that has that project, has those milestones, and basically would be working almost project managing on that on our end, and then, you know, holding us accountable to getting them that information, getting that back to them, getting it in front of you, getting that reviewed, and going in that full process to keep us as Jim had mentioned, to keep us on task, keep us on point, and asking us the big questions and getting us the information that we need versus, you know, currently right now, staff is all doing that themselves, so.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'd welcome a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
God dang, Tony, that's great. I really appreciate that. Do I get a second? I'll second it. Man, MVPs over your halo is fading. You weren't even close. You want to keep going?
Be nice to her, she's already had one meeting tonight.
All in favor of adjourning the November 12th Plan Commission meeting? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.